Hello everybody. I've decided to continue with the 1889-90 New Zealand and South Seas exhibition for this episode because, as I said at the end of the last episode, we've only just scratched the surface of the artworks that were on display there. Works by New Zealand artists at the exhibition, which we talked about last time, were predominantly landscape paintings. And while commending the artists on their excellent works, the jurors were a little critical of this monotonous landscape bias. But there was some very good non-landscape work on display nonetheless. The Fine Arts department also included subcategories for sculpture, architectural drawing, and flower painting. Painted screens were considered works of art. One of them in the Canterbury Court was so good that it was moved to the art gallery and was awarded a First Order of Merit in the Decorators and Other Artwork category. There was even a ship models category in the Fine Arts department. Lithographic artist and cartoonist Peter McIntyre had some of his work hung in the concert hall rather than in the Fine Arts galleries. The works, which had been submitted by a James Young rather than by McIntyre himself, were crayon drawings depicting old Otago identities, including Dunedin town crier Sandy Lowe and Goldfields postman Jock Graham. McIntyre's Caxton Printing Company also produced this fold-out panorama for a guidebook to the southern regions that was designed to be given out to all visitors to the exhibition who'd come from outside Otago. But the art I mostly want to focus on today is that of photography, beginning with the exhibition's authorised photographer David de Morse, who was reported to have taken over 5,000 photographs during the course of the exhibition. De Morse ran a portrait studio at the exhibition, and the photos taken there included ID shots for exhibition passes. He recorded the construction of the exhibition buildings, events during the exhibition, and views of the exhibits, including a large number of photos of the exhibition's art galleries, some of which we saw in our last episode. He turned 79 of his photographs into stereoscopic views, which provided a virtual immersive experience of the exhibition. 4 other local photographers, the American Photo Company, Francis Lawrence Jones, John Richard Morris Jr. and Burton Brothers, had bays side by side at the exhibition. The American Photo Company, which was managed by John Gittins Wills, specialised in portrait photography, especially portraits of children. Their exhibit comprised 8 walnut display cases filled with around 150 portraits of all sizes. The star of the show was an art photograph depicting a woman in a snowstorm, standing against a snowy background with snow falling all around her and settling in patches on her dress, the snow having been produced by painting it onto the glass plate negative. John Wills received a third-class award for his portraits at the exhibition. Portrait photography, which would earn him both first and second-class awards, was also the focus for Francis Lawrence Jones. Son of Welsh portrait painter William Edward Jones, Francis Lawrence Jones had settled in Dunedin in the early 1880s. He married Jane Grant Bell here in 1887, but he died in 1898, aged 35, leaving Jane as a widow with 3 young children, 2 daughters aged 10 and 7 and a son aged 9. The carte de visite photograph of Evelyn Bagley on the top right is thought to have been taken at the time of the exhibition. Burton Brothers showed both portraits and landscapes, with the latter taking highest honours. By the time of the exhibition, Burton Brothers had been in business for over 20 years, although Burton Brothers was now in the hands of Alfred Burton alone, ever since he and Walter had fallen out in 1877. In those 20-plus years, the business had amassed a stock of around 6,000 landscape negatives, produced on their travels throughout New Zealand and abroad, and their display at the exhibition featured images from these expeditions. One display case contained photographs from Alfred Burton's tour of the King Country in 1885. He was rewarded with a fellowship of the Royal Geographical Society for these images, and for ones captured in Fiji, Tonga and Samoa the year before, which were also on display at the exhibition. A third case housed a collection of images from the thermal regions of the North Island, including scenes before and after the eruption of Mount Tarawera in 1886. And one wall of the exhibit was devoted to photographs of the Southern Lakes and West Coast Sounds. John Richard Morris Jr. occupied 2 bays with examples of his scenic and portrait photography. He also had a couple of oil paintings in the picture galleries and gained a second-class award for one titled Inshore Waves. He fared even better with his photographs, winning first-class awards for both portraits and landscapes. His collection of landscapes, which according to one reviewer was second to none that they had ever seen in New Zealand, included views in the Cold District, in the West Coast Sounds, in and around Dunedin, and on the road to the West Coast, along with a small collection of scenes of life down on the farm. His display of portraits was also large in number, and the photographs were said to be excellently executed. A couple of slightly random pictures to finish with. This tapestry picture depicting Mary Queen of Scots was displayed in the Education Court at the exhibition as an example of works associated with Roman Catholic schools, and it secured a First Order of Merit for the Dominican sisters who made it. And a much admired work at the exhibition was an oil painting titled The Traitor by Paul Joanowicz that had been sent from Melbourne and which is today in the collection of the National Gallery of Victoria, who purchased it after it was returned to Australia. The painting depicts a group of Montenegrin bandits accusing one of their mates of betraying them. And in this parody of the painting, some of the exhibition commissioners and management are likewise accusing one of their own of betrayal. The alleged traitor in this case is Henry Fish Smith, who appears to be being called out for criticising the commissioners' financial management of the exhibition. Let's leave it there for this episode. See you next time, and thanks for watching.